Okay, let's call the April 28th, 2025 council meeting to order. All rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard? That passes.
Can I bring something up? Weren't we supposed to change the other to add the fire department? Are we supposed to do that now?
That can be brought up under new business. If Mr. Look
Okay.
wants to bring it up in his staff report.
Mr. Mayor, we can bring that up under other number 9.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Presentations, Anoka County.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Scott Wicklund, and I'm a sergeant in the Patrol Division. March had a total of 371 calls for service. Deputies handled 3 thefts, 2 burglaries, and 2 damaged property reports. Deputies made a total of 34 arrests for miscellaneous offenses, 242 traffic stops resulting in 43 traffic citations. Some notable calls that our deputies made. First one on March 1st at 9:54 p.m. Deputy Petrich stopped a vehicle near the area of Viking Boulevard Northeast and East Bethel Boulevard for a driving conduct. Vehicles also called in earlier by a concerned citizen who believed the driver might be impaired. While speaking with the driver, the deputy noticed signs of impairment consistent with the consumption of alcohol. The driver admitted consuming 1 beer before leaving work. Deputy Petrich had the driver step out, perform SFSTs or the field sobriety tests, which he ultimately did and failed. The driver refused the PBT and was subsequently arrested. He was transported to ICSO where he provided the breath test, which resulted in a BAC of 0.20, much more than 1 beer. The driver was transported to jail and booked on 3rd-degree DWI. On March 7th, 2025 at 9:49 p.m., Deputy Graham stopped the vehicle on Highway 65 near Sims Road for an equipment violation. Deputy Graham spoke to the driver, who had no identification or registration on the vehicle. The deputy collected the driver's name and date of birth, began running checks on the driver and the vehicle. Upon running the driver, Deputy Grahams noted that the driver didn't look anything like the picture of the person who he said he was. Deputy Grahams later learned the correct identity of the driver and learned that he identified himself as his brother because his license was revoked. Deputies arrested him and transported to jail where he's booked on gross misdemeanor false information. On March 14th at 1:17 a.m., Deputy Martinez stopped a vehicle near 189th and Buchanan Street for suspicious activity and a moving violation. While speaking with the driver, Deputy Martinez recognized both occupants from prior contacts and believed that neither had a valid driver's license. Deputy Martinez ran checks on both individuals, confirmed that the occupants did not have valid driver's licenses. Deputy Martinez decided to tow the vehicle and began an inventory of the interior of the vehicle prior to towing it. Inside the vehicle, Deputy Martinez located a scale, several baggies. In one of the baggies, he located a white powdery substance that field tested positive for the presence of cocaine. He also located other baggies that contained a similar substance that tested positive for the presence of methamphetamine. A gun, $1,600 in cash was also recovered. The occupant was arrested and transported to jail. The total weight of their narcotics seized was 4.31 pounds. On March 20th at 9 p.m., Deputy Forrest stopped a vehicle near 229th and Durant. After running a plate, he learned that the registered owner had a probation warrant issued by the U.S. Marshal Service for possession of dangerous drugs. Deputy Forrest contacted the driver, who matched a description of the male with the warrant. He advised the male he was under arrest and took him into custody for the active warrant. During the search of the arrestee's pockets, 10 grams of a white powdery substance that later tested positive for methamphetamine was located. Several other drug-related items were recovered from inside the vehicle and replaced the evidence. The male was arrested and transported to jail and booked on the active warrant and 3rd-degree possession of a controlled substance. We responded to 10 vehicle crashes last month, which was significantly down from the past months. With the warm weather fast approaching, we anticipate we will see more vehicular traffic on the roadways, so everyone buckle up. Stay under the speed limit and call 911 to report any egregious driving conduct.
So on the drug stop, I'm assuming 4.31 pounds is a lot of drugs?
That's a significant amount, yes.
So-
It's much more than a normal traffic stop. That's very rare.
Or you might have a couple baggies or something, and so 4.31 pounds is a good score.
Yeah, usually it's 4.31 grams. This one is pounds, which is, yeah, it's a rare stop, and a good job by the deputies who are always out working and trying to find this kind of stuff, get it out of the city.
Oh, good,
Is
good,
there a
good that they
dollar
did.
value on that?
What's that?
Is there a dollar value on that?
Don't know, tests haven't come in, so a lot of that had to do with like fentanyl pills on that one. There was also like that found in the car, so it was a large, I had to look at the report to make sure all the weights were right when I read this, and I had to double check to make sure there wasn't a typo, and there was not a typo.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the public or anything?
We appreciate you.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Fire report.
Mayor, City Council, good evening. My name's Jerry Strike. I'm Assistant Administrating the Fire Department. So far in April, we've had 58 incidents. We've had 3 daytime structure fires. The first daytime structure fire was involving a recreational fire that was left unattended overnight. The wind swept up, burnt their grass to their very nice pole barn and burnt it down. Lost everything inside it. The next one was a chicken coop fire, which was a larger chicken coop fire. And one recently we had on the island at Station 3, we had a cabin fire there. The chicken coop fire was caused by a heating lamp. If you have chickens, I've been in the business almost 37 years now. I can't tell you how many times the cause of a chicken coop fire is a heating lamp. So do everything you can to make sure that that heating lamp is secure, and that there is a 3-foot distance from any combustible. And make sure your chicken coop is away from your primary residence, because if that starts on fire, so too will your primary residence. Recently, the cabin fire on the lake was caused by a space heater that was underneath a kitchen table. They set their clothes on top of a chair, which fell onto the space heater, and after a period of time, we ended up having a structure fire. We've assisted with 2 structure fires. It isn't uncommon for our fire department to assist other agencies, primarily with water, because a lot of the communities don't have hydrants. When they don't have hydrants, we bring them a portable hydrant on wheels. We call it a tender, and we get a bunch of tenders in a row, and we drop water in a big swimming pool, and the truck sucks water out of the swimming pool. So the goal is to keep the swimming pool full. So they call their neighbors. We went to 2 personal injury accidents. 65 is a culprit of a lot of those. 7 grass fires this month, wildland fires. And I've said this before, but I'd rather be inside of a structure fire than have to be in the woods fighting a wildland fire. They're very physically demanding. But we work closely with the DNR and our partners. East Bethel is equipped to fight wildland fires. The rest of the calls were medical related. I do want to let everyone know that we're having an information session on how to become a firefighter for the city of East Bethel on May 14th. It's a Wednesday. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. at our Station 1. If you're interested in being a firefighter for the community, bring a significant other. No children, please, because we're going to talk about the reality of what the firefighter does. We'll put you in gear, show you how to stay in good standing, how training works. We pay for all the training, all the equipment, and we'd love to have you there. So if you're interested or know of someone in the community who wants to be a firefighter, minimum age 18. We don't have a high-end age on it. So if you're sitting at home looking at TikTok videos and wondering what you could do to add some purpose in your life, here you go. Come on and join our team. We are currently implementing a new records management system. So the reports that you've seen in the past and the information, we're sort of trying to get good data in this new system, so drawing it out. In fact, all the firefighters are at the station right now learning how that new system works, because after every incident, we report everything that happened. We have to put names and everything in there. So this month, we've had a total dollar loss of approximately $370,000 in fire loss. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5O, public forum. Derek Lynn?
Pass that around, please. I got paper copies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Derek Lind. I'm with ACIT, Anoka County Election Integrity Team. Some of you I recognize from being here in the past. We've been operating for 3 years now. We started, Matt remembers us from 3 years ago, March of 2022. The reason I'm here tonight is to talk about just your poll pad agreements. The poll pad is what you check in on election day. It's an electronic roster. These came out in 2018, and there was an agreement that was pushed out. Our recommendation to you is that you cancel that agreement. We think it's a bad deal. I'm also asking for the opportunity to come back and be a little more specific as to why we think you should cancel that. I can't really get a lot done here in the public forum. Depends on how much time you give me. But we just kind of gave you the short version here. If I could run through this real quick. So this agreement that you guys entered was back in June of 2018. 2 cities in Anoka County have already canceled this agreement. Oak Grove and Ramsey canceled this agreement. Ramsey is saying they don't want to go back to use the poll pads anymore. But if you could turn to the first page there. The poll pad agreement was never properly approved. The vote from the Anoka County Council Board of Commissioners was to purchase the poll pads, but they never took any votes after that. And then you guys never took any votes either. And this is something that both parties should have voted on. So that's one reason we think you should cancel it. As of right now, we can't find any vote that you guys ever took on this. If you could look at the next page, there's some risk associated with that. And because of that, we think you should cancel this and start over. You know, take a closer look at it. The Ramsey County attorney, he said, if you look at the bottom there on the bottom left-hand side, he said this agreement is very one-sided in favor of the county and not a good deal for the city. You know, just one comment on that. I think what happened is in 2018, of course I wasn't there, but you know, the poll pads came out, we didn't know what it was new technology. The state was offering money for this, and it was just kind of pushed out, and everybody said, yeah, we'll do it. So it was kind of a sloppy deal, that's what we think. And that's why we're going around now to all the cities saying, hey, take another closer look at this. If you could look at the next page, there's a lot of statutes that govern the use of these poll pads, and there could be some liability there, and those are some things that you may want to look at too. That's it. If you want to get a hold of us, contact information is at the back of this. One other point I want to make, and this is very important. The Anoka County Board just voted on this a couple of months ago. I think it was in January 29th. 2 commissioners voted no, not to purchase the poll pads again. It was Commissioner Heinrich and Commissioner Reinert. The 3rd commissioner did not vote. I believe that's your commissioner, Rosted. Does she represent this area? So the politics is changing on these poll pads. They're not real popular right now. So just asking you to take a closer look. Wanted to bring it to your attention in person. You guys have any questions for me while I'm here? If you want to bring our group back, we can go more in depth on this. So thank
What
you.
other options are there?
Paper. In fact, in Asani County, they have 19 precincts, 17 of them are paper. You use paper until 2018, so through the 2016 election. Our recommendation is go back to paper, but for this purpose, we're just saying cancel the poll pad agreement. Maybe you decide you want to continue to use these electronic poll pads, that's up to you. Get yourself a better agreement though. You got to represent your city. What happened before, it got pushed out by staff and it was met by staff on your side. We think in most cities, every city was a little bit different. At one time we thought 20 cities hadn't voted on this, but this was a major change to the election system. You guys should be voting on it, they should be voting on it. And it was just kind of rushed through. Again, I think it was just sloppy. Everybody thought it was a good idea and it was free money at the time. So Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your time. Have a good night.
Sarah McLaughlin.
Thank you. Sarah McLaughlin, 1148 231st Lane. I am back again just to follow up in regards to the last meeting on the 14th regarding the neighbor that I have and the issue that we are having at the address 1120 231st Lane. Since I was last here, I am not sure if you council members have come up with any solutions or any courses of action to take towards this, whether or not that's something we can discuss now, or if you just want me to go forward with the information that I gathered in preparation for this second attempt to talk to you guys.
To give you an update, I have talked to the deputy, and deputy has talked with the fire chief and the city administrator. There is a plan of action that is coming together. I'm not sure if we want to discuss that in public, but I'm sure you could be updated privately on that.
Okay, I would appreciate that. As I received all of the incident case reports from Anoka County Sheriff that have been had at that location since 2023, and the findings in here and the information is just, it's mind-boggling to me. The information that I find and the things that I see stated worse passed over to you guys for evaluation, and that is starting back in February of 2024, and we still have no resolution. I know that we're working on it, but expediting it would be something I know our whole neighborhood would be begging you for. When looking at these reports, 32 of these reports had nothing to do with the homeowner out of 53 reports that have been filed since 2023. Today, this evening, it looks like there's already 4 more people moving in as they have brought 2 more trailers full of junk and are unloading them in the back where the police can't see them as they drive by.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that there was a resolution or there is something being worked on. We did have a deputy tell us that, but I will say I have been told that for the last 2 years, and I just really haven't seen any action. So I am going to give these reports to you council members, and just know that if you would like that living next to you, maybe we can move a little quicker on it.
Yeah.
They're all color coded
Sarah,
per year.
Sarah, I've talked to Deputy Peters also,
Okay.
and believe me, if there was something that we could do right now, we would do it. It's unfortunate, in my opinion, the way our laws are. It's sad that it appears to me that the people that are doing stuff illegal have more rights than us, and totally wrong, in my opinion. But believe me, whatever we can do, we are working on it for sure. I know we talked to Corey on the Planning Commission. He brought that to us as well, and we are aware of it, and if I could do something like right now, I would. But it's unfortunate that our laws protect the bad guys, in my opinion, but we aren't going to give up on you. I can let you know that.
I appreciate that. I think reading some of those incident case reports, it seems that sometimes there was just an assumption made of who was allowed to live there and who wasn't, due to the severity and the drug use that's happening at the residence. I know the officers put themselves at risk every time they walk into that house, but it just really seemed unfortunate reading through those. That detail was sickening to me and my husband, just to really understand what's happening next door to us.
Mr. Mayor, just by way of an update, I did speak with, I believe the owner is Dan, if I'm not mistaken. His brother has been heavily involved in this. They are looking to potentially form an LLC and put the property in an LLC, so there's a board now that can make a decision in the event that the owner is not on premise or in jail or whatever the case may be. And they're actively looking to trespass people. Some of the trailers you might be seeing is actually stuff getting hauled out.
No, they're dropping them off.
Because
yeah.
Because this gentleman told me that he is actually in there with trailers removing things as we speak.
Yeah,
So-
that's not the case, unfortunately. I'm right next door and I can see it clearly from my balcony, my deck, that they're just pulling it in there, dropping stuff off and then leaving. And then having trucks full of stuff, unloading it and leaving it. And then there's 3 pickup trucks there that are all, you know, just not welcome, shouldn't be there, currently. Like at this moment, like before I came to this meeting, we were watching them.
Okay.
I talked to an attorney, and I don't know if this is accurate, maybe this attorney knows, and I think I messaged you this, but the owner can get a eviction within a couple of weeks based on illegal activity, and then give it to the police, and within a couple of weeks, that place should be able to be cleared out.
Yeah, there's in the case
Yeah,
reports,
yes.
it states that they lost their eviction notice in 2024
But they didn't do it, they did it based on
in a 30-day.
squatters, and,
Yeah.
but they don't need the 90 days if it's based on illegal activity. They can immediately evict. It
Yeah.
just takes the courts a couple of weeks to get it all processed.
I think they're a little timid from losing their case, which they were under the assumption that this was the appropriate course of action
Yeah.
in the first time, and then the money wasted and the loss of the case and allowing more people to move back in.
I get it.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk with the fire chief privately, he can update you on what's been happening and inform you. And hopefully soon we can have some resolution here.
Well, you'll see my shining face until then.
That's
So
fine,
thank
that's
you.
fine. You come
Thank
to
you.
every meeting.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, Dave Kiefer?
Yes. I was before the council last May, towards the end of May, about a neighbor with roosters. And I don't know if you remember me or not. We have 9 complaint forms filled out, and we left them with you last time. I kept copies of them just in case you didn't have many more from our neighborhood. We're in a development, and these roosters crow night and day. I mean, 2 in the morning, I've got audio tape, and we ended up having to put out trail cams because to get proof that they're crowing at 2 in the morning, they're crowing at 5:45 in the morning, they're crowing all during the day. And last year, when I dropped these off to you and talked to the council, the consensus with the council was it was a noise nuisance and a noise pollution, whatever. The noise ordinance from the city would go in there and say, look, you gotta get rid of the roosters once and for all. This was towards the end of last May 20th.
Is this in the area of Viking and Jackson?
192nd and Jackson Street. there,
Okay, yeah, I remember it.
And I have these, oops, I'm sorry, I'll pass those over to you. I have those are the complaint forms from the different neighbors. I believe there's about 22, 25 houses, and I've got 9 of the neighbors who, wanted to put their name on the complaint form and complain to the city council so that something could be done, because especially now that it's getting nice, you can't sleep with your windows open. They're just all night long. And we implore you to please do something. And now this winter, there's oftentimes we can see with our binoculars, our properties butt up to each other. And I've got 2.5 acres. I think they have 5 acres or something there. It's 716 192nd it's on there, I think Lane or Avenue.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah,
and
4.87.
yeah, and I'm not prejudiced whatsoever. I have, the best man for my wedding was Mexican. And so that has nothing to do with it, but it's a Mexican family, and we've had the sheriff go over there, we've had the city go over there, and you knock on the door, they don't answer. They won't answer their door. They're home, they won't answer the door. And they only speak Spanish, so the only way, I mean, I don't know if you guys sent a notice to them, or if you talked to them personally, but I know that the city was over there, and then they ended up, whoever it was, ended up saying, oh, you can keep one rooster. Well, now they're up to 2 or 3 roosters again, and it's worse than ever. And in a development like that, they should not, I mean, there's no reason to have roosters, first of all. The chickens can lay eggs without the roosters. So there's no reason in a housing development like that to have roosters.
Dave, last year when you were here
Yes, sir.
and you had your complaint there, myself and Councilman Miller went out there.
Yep.
And I know what you're saying, we knocked on the door, nobody would answer.
Right.
But we couldn't find a chicken nowhere.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, do they hide them or what?
They have them way out on the back of their property, and of course that's right by mine, but the neighbors on either side, and even the neighbors across the street, 192nd, and then it kind of curves around up to Viking Boulevard again. That's where a lot of these complaints come. They can hear them there.
Really?
But yeah, they'll hide them in, especially if they know that somebody's coming to inspect their property.
Yeah, because we never told them, we just showed up, but
Yeah.
we couldn't find a
Yeah.
chicken anywhere.
No, and they let them run loose out in the back there. They usually stay on their property, but now in December, we had one on our property, and I've got a picture of that, and I've got a picture of what that rooster looked like, and it was in horrible shape. It was, all the tail feathers were ripped out of it. It had lice, because it had been out for at least a week in my yard, and it was eating birdseed, which is not good for chickens. We feed the birds, and the birdseed falls on the ground, and that's the only thing it had to eat. And they never came looking for their chicken, and so we called the sheriff to we didn't know what to do. You know, what do? You got a chicken running around your yard, and it's freezing cold outside. This was December 13th, 15th, somewhere around there. And had the sheriff out, and he said, well, if you catch him, call me back, you know. And he documented that he came out and saw the chicken, and I've got pictures too if you want to see the condition that this poor chicken was in. I mean, so we finally caught him about 4 days after we tried, catching him. We finally caught him, and we brought it to a sanctuary where they get them vetted, and they put them on a farm where they can't be abused anymore. And she said, I have a report here from her. She said, we named her Gladys, and we love animals, so we hate to see these animals being treated like this. But she said it was covered in lice and suffered frostbite. This is from the lady with the chicken sanctuary that we brought it to. She said it was covered in lice and suffered frostbite before we rescued her. And all of her tail feathers were pulled out, and she was infested with roundworms. And she said she weighed about 3¼ pounds, or 3 pounds, 4 ounces, or something like that. She also said it lost one of its toes due to frostbite because it had no shelter, it had no water, it had, it was just, and they had no concern about where it was. They never looked for it. And like I said, our properties butt up to each other. And I wasn't gonna bring it back over there because I've seen the condition from my yard. I haven't been inside their barns, but I see the way they're being just left to run all over the property back there and onto our property. And so she also said this is a game hen, like an Old English or an American game hen. And they're not really egg-laying chickens. She says they only lay typically 120 eggs per year, where a good laying chicken, a good breed of chicken, will lay anywhere from 250 to 300 eggs per year. So she said these are typically, let's see what she said here. She said they're typically used in cockfighting, this breed in particular. They're not used for anything but that. Now, I don't know anything about what goes on at the property. I know they have big parties on a Friday night during the summertime every so often, and they've had where they had a vehicle out back that started a brush fire. I know the fire department showed up to put that out, and the car was just buried back there in the tall grass and started the fire from the mufflers. But I don't know what goes on, because I have not been on their property. You know, I've seen it from my property because we butt up against each other, but I don't know what goes on inside the barns. And so, but I've seen the condition of this poor chicken. And they let their dogs run constantly. The garbage cans are out front of their house, and they leave them out there. They do own a Mexican restaurant down in Blaine, right off by the police department in Blaine. And I don't know, you know, I know that one of the neighbors says they're bringing all the garbage from their business out here, so they don't have to have a garbage disposal at their business. But they leave the garbage cans out on the street all week long, and this stuff is blowing onto the neighbor's property and all around the neighborhood onto the street. And that, I know the two neighbors on either side are just beyond frustrated with that and the noise from the chickens, you know, the roosters. But their dogs run loose. A couple of the neighbors on a complaint form said they've brought the dogs back to them a number of times before they ran out onto Viking Boulevard up there. And, you know, the two young kids speaks a little bit of English, and, you know, just said, well, we're not supposed to tell you about those people in the basement, whatever that meant. I don't know what that means, but. So the big thing for us, if we want to be able to open, this has been 3 years that we put up with nonstop roosters, you know, day and night. And I've got audio that's time-stamped here if you want to hear it. 2:30 in the morning, the rooster's crowing, and I can play it for you if you want it.
We believe you.
That's why I brought this up. We've got our game cam stuff, and, you know, we've got them on 2:30 in the morning, you know, crowing away, and it's loud, and, you know, so if you could address that, and please don't let them keep even one rooster this time. Last year, they were allowed to keep one rooster, but there's no reason for them to have a rooster, not in the development. So please, please give us some relief in the neighborhood. You know, the neighbors on either side of that property, they're the ones who are the closest to the noise. And the one just died, not just recently, passed away from a heart attack. And I don't know if this was part of the stress. He's been fighting it for 3 years, you know. And the other one is at his wit's end too, you know, with the noise and the
So
garbage blowing.
Dave,
into
your
the yard.
property butts up to them from the rear?
Yep.
So then the front of your house, and which road is?
Jackson Street.
So you're on Jackson?
Yep, I'm on Jackson Street, and my property goes all the way back, and our properties butt up against each other, you know.
Okay.
And then the neighbor who lives, it would be towards Jackson Street on 192nd there, his property butts up to mine and runs along part of his too.
So then do you face Jackson?
I do,
You do, okay, so then it comes in that,
yeah.
goes to
And-
the west?
Yep,
Okay, your property.
yep. He's on the west side of my property, and the front of my house faces
Okay.
Jackson Street.
Okay.
Even with our windows closed during the winter, and we just put in triple pane windows last fall, and we can still hear them through the windows at night. So, yeah, it's really frustrating, and who wants to run air conditioning and the furnace all the time? You know, when it's nice out, I want to have the windows open to sleep, and my neighbors do too. You know, like I said, there's 9 of us here on the complaint forms. A lot of the other ones said, oh, no, I don't want to get involved. I don't want them to come after me and this, that, and the other thing. And I tried to assure them that these won't get back to the family that has the roosters. So please help us. That's all I'm asking is to do something to give us some peace in the neighborhood.
Mr. Look, can we take some action on this?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I know that Nick has been out to the property. I think he experienced something similar where there weren't any chickens around. People weren't answering. So we will address this in the next staff meeting and see what options are available.
If you need proof, I've got the audio, you know, and it's all time stamped, the dates and the time of day it is, you know, 2 in the morning, 5:45 in the morning, 3 in the morning.
It might work best to come by during office hours and give that a copy of those to staff.
Sure, I can do that. Like I said, it's just so frustrating because,
Now, I understand.
you know, it's been 3 years now and we're not able to enjoy,
The,
you know, and I love the sound of the birds and Mother Nature and all that stuff, and we'd love to hear that, but we can't even enjoy that because the rooster is gone.
So the rooster's running around in your yard even?
This was a chicken that was in our yard, but we've had where they're not always running out loose, but there's been at least 4 or 5 times where we've seen them, all of them, just running around, the roosters and the chickens running around
How many would you,
on the back of our
how many do you
property.
think they have? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, how many?
This is my
Sure.
wife.
So I saw 5 huge roosters. I mean, I thought they were chirps. That's how large they were. And this was my naked eye from my house, my window. This was from our living room window out to the trees on their property. And these birds looked as big as turkeys. I thought, wow, those are big birds. But they were roosters and they were running back and forth. So they weren't on our property, but you could clearly see them running underneath
yeah.
the trees out there, because the deer eat up the pine trees. So you could see
So
them running
do
around.
they have a chicken house behind then, way in the
Yeah,
back?
it's right directly behind
Okay,
I
because I
us.
can
didn't
show
see
you
one
if you
over
want me
there.
to.
I didn't see nothing way in the back. We were-
She has pictures of the barns and stuff there
Okay.
if you
I
wanna
can
see
show you
from
that
our
one
house.
now.
Yeah, you pull it up on the GIS, you can see.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Oh, yeah.
the barn you can see, if you're looking out our window, the barn is just this big white spot right behind some trees. And that's where the chickens are housed. The roosters, they move, because you can hear it once in a while, they'll crow back here, and then all of a sudden they're crowing up here. And then when they have their parties, it's usually right next to the barn.
Where the chickens
And
are.
we have, I mean, you can see the flames, they go almost as tall as trees. That's how big these fires are. And I was like, if I see it again, I'm calling the fire people, because that's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all dry grass
And,
back there.
yeah, and when our property backs up to them, we've got outbuildings back there too that we don't want. We've had it burn across our property when somebody left a fire unattended years ago, and to see those flames shooting above the 30-foot trees up there, you know, it's scary. It's really scary. My guess is they probably have 20 to 30 chickens, and probably, my guess is maybe 3 to 4 roosters right now.
It did go
Mr.
down to 1 when you guys somewhat addressed it, but it never went away. And now it's slowly creeping up again, now they're up to 3.
Yeah.
And I can distinctly hear, you know, one call here, and all of a sudden another one call over here. And then another one call, you can hear it, you know, in a different barn. So they have different outbuildings, but the big barn is where all the chickens are housed, and you can't see that from the road. Because they're like up here, and then the barn goes down like this.
Mr. Mayor, I know that the council has discussed chicken rooster ordinances in the past as it relates to how many roosters you can have per acreage. And the unfortunate reality with roosters is that they will fertilize eggs, and within 2 to 3 months, you'll have more roosters, just the way it works. So when you have a situation where people might not be managing their flock, so to speak, who knows how many roosters you're gonna have, you know, eventually. So this is the challenge when we bring these type of ordinances forward for, you know, analysis on determining how many roosters, if there should be roosters at all. These are the potential problems that we're gonna be facing at some point down the road. I mean, there's some that will comply, and there's 99% that won't. So.
It's frustrating, especially in a housing development, when, you know, one house is gonna ruin the whole neighborhood, you know, for having your windows open. Even if you're just during the day, I mean, it's nonstop. And at night especially, when you wanna sleep with your windows open and this thing is just crowing 2, 3 in the morning. Midnight, we've heard it at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, you know.
So, yeah, and I do have the report from this chicken sanctuary, the lady who's a specialist, if you want that too.
You can leave it with Mr. Look for the record.
I thank you, I appreciate all your time.
Hopefully we can get some resolution on this.
I would really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. The neighbors.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
forward.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 6.0.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second, and I'd like to pull item G.
We have a motion and a second. Any others need to be pulled?
Nope.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve this. All those in favor except for G?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None heard. Item G.
Item G, I just have two questions on this JPA with the BCA. The first question is this a renewal of this contract, or is it a whole new contract? Because I thought if it were a renewal, it would say renewal, but it's...
Mr. Mayor and council members, the best of my knowledge is this is a renewal because it's a joint powers agreement for the city of East Bethel that our city attorney uses. And I don't know if our city attorney can comment on this, but in order for them to access the information from BCA, they need these following agreements approved so they can act as an agent on our behalf for prosecution.
I figured that, but I just wondered if we already had this agreement and it's a renewal. And then my other question was, is there a cost increase, or is this cost the same as it was? Because I didn't see that in there when I was looking through it.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my understanding is there's no cost to this. It just is the authoritative vehicle to allow Eckberg and Lammers to access the information they need for prosecutorial services.
Okay. I have to check something else before I go, because I had another comment. No, that's all I had. I thought it was talking about a cost in there, but I didn't see any dollar signs, so,
Yeah, I don't
okay.
recall reading that.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve item G on the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Item 7A. Final plat.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I did not prepare a slideshow for this, as this is a final plat and development contract agreement, which is all provided for you in the packet. Keep it short. Nothing has changed from the preliminary plat that you approved last month, or 2 months ago now. And everything meets code. Anything that needs to be resolved has been added to the resolution as stated and has been reviewed by the city attorney. The development contract would still be negotiated, as still working on what's included, since there's no public improvements proposed with this small subdivision of 3 lots. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Make a resolution, or make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-23, final plat and development contract for Blanco de Cola Preda, for 3 lots located at PID 2633, 23, 32, 0012, and 2633, 23, 23, 0001.
Second. Have a motion, second. Discussion?
Okay, I just have a comment. On page 41, it says the Planning Commission held a public hearing to review the preliminary plat at their XX meeting. I don't like that XX meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been noted. I will add that to a review for staff to look at before the reports go out. I apologize for that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I think that was to remind someone to put a date in there. Our apologies.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard? Motion passes. Staff report.
Mr. Mayor, I have a few items to cover here this evening. First of all, just want to say that we've started our union negotiations, and we've had a first good meet and greet meeting, and kind of chatted through some of the issues that are out there. We're going to be bringing this to the Finance Committee to discuss the proposal that they're going to bring forth. So more to come on that. I want to give just an update too on the abandoned house that is at 229th Avenue, rather northeast. This is behind, I believe, the house that was in question here this evening. I did some checking with the county, and in fact, the owner of the house passed away. His son then took ownership of the house and passed away from an overdose. And the house is currently in behind on taxes, and it has to go through its normal process of tax forfeiture and everything else, and before the county can step in and sheriff sale that property. So unfortunately, the law requires a time frame for these things, and so in the meanwhile, we would just ask the neighbors to keep an eye on the property, make sure there's nothing funny going on around there, and that they would call the sheriff in the event that there is. Again, we would love to post a deputy out in front of the house, but that would burn up resources that we can't necessarily afford. But we can respond in case there's any sort of nefarious activity going on. Third item is the finalists, the fire chief candidate, that will be meeting tomorrow with the firefighters. We'll take kind of a tour of the station, the equipment, stand for questions of firefighters. I think this is a good opportunity for folks to get to know him. And it is, after successful negotiation, we're looking at about a 27th of May start date. So, but there is a lot of positive feedback we're getting, changes that are happening at the fire department, and kind of people at first didn't quite know the need for it, but are kind of starting to realize that these are positive changes, good changes. So that's a good thing that will help kind of pave the way for the new individual as he comes in. I wanted to also mention with regards to landform that we just met today, and we're going to be kind of transitioning away from the officing on Mondays and moving to more of a remote meeting weekly for Grace if she has any questions on some of the cases that she's going to be working with. So we kind of started off with Kendra was here every Monday, meet with residents that would be coming in, schedule those meetings. Then we'll move to more of a phone call with Grace so that she can run through, these are the cases I'm working on, make sure everything is set up and ready to go. And as we start to phase out to then finally an on-call type of need. So if let's say down the road Grace has a issue that she just does not know how to deal with, she can reach out to Kendra, and Kendra can bill us on an hourly basis for that. I think that is all that I have for updates today. That'll be under other. Yep.
So then you'll take it from there.
All right, thank you. Council reports. Anybody got any reports?
I have some things to say. First, I want to say, talk about senior stuff. I would like on a future agenda, put on there the approval of serving alcohol, wine and beer over in the community center area. Last time it went through all the stages and the council approved it, but then when it went over there, the seniors disapproved it. So this time we got the seniors to approve it, so now we want the council to approve it, and then we're gonna get into the cost of insurance and licensing. and for right now, we have Route 65 going to be the sole provider, so anybody who wants it. We also got our $1 million insurance policy for over there, so now when any resident, in the past, any resident who wanted to use it had to go out and contact their insurance company and get their own additional $1.5 million extra insurance, and they don't have to do that anymore because the seniors got that insurance policy. So I wanted to talk about that. The seniors would also like to look over that copy of the cleaning contract just to make sure that, because they're feeling like the guy is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and I told them, because I looked at yours, but they want to see it themselves. So maybe if you could email that to me, I can bring it to the next meeting. May 3rd, that's this coming Saturday, I think, is going to be the Fix-It Clinic up over here. So if anybody has a small 25-pound or less item, a microwave, a vacuum, a toaster that you need to have fixed, bring it on up and put those guys to work. The senior dance is Friday, so if you're a senior, please come. Well, you don't even have to be a senior. Come and dance. It's old polka music and stuff. It's country. It's a lot of fun. So come on up. There's refreshments, and I'd love to see you there because I'm going to decorate. And if you're a mom, you might get a rose. And that's all I have. Oh, and I did get a few complaints about the town hall meeting, and I think I will talk to Mr. Look one-on-one with those complaints, and maybe we can spoof up the next one a little bit. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
What time on Friday?
1 to 4.
All right, nothing else being heard. Let's move to other.
So, Mr. Mayor, this evening, Acting Fire Chief Jerry Strike presented 3 proposals for us to consider. The right page here. The first is to essentially move to a duty crew model during the daytime hours, and transition. The second one is transition of position. Ben's position, fire chief to deputy chief, by removing the overtime that hourly gets paid, moving to a full-time, and then also reducing medical calls by the calls that he had indicated, highlighted as the non-emergent calls. He believes that those last 2, by reducing the calls and transitioning that position, that there will be a cost savings to employing a duty crew for the daytime hours. Again, one of the reasons for that is the responses during the daytime have, in his experience, have been 1 firefighter in a truck, and he doesn't believe that is adequate enough to, once you get on scene, to be able to operate that vehicle by yourself and effectively take care of that situation, gain control of that situation. So essentially under other, if it is the will of the council, you could motion to approve 1 or all 3 of these, and staff will start that, and if that passes, staff will start the process of implementing that. I want to remind everyone too that everything is fluid here in terms of, we can try this. If it doesn't work, we can try a different model or go back to the old model or do whatever we see fits. I think in his experience, he's seen these models work. Again, he's indicated that as we grow as a community, as we have more and more demand, you move from the volunteer model to the duty crew model. The duty crew model, if you're doing both daytime and evening, can be very expensive, or a lot more expensive than we are currently covering for volunteers. But a lot of communities are in fact doing that, and so you have firefighters that live in Golden Valley and essentially work on duty crews in different communities. So If this is something that the council would like to pursue, we would just need a motion, second, and vote on that this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve duty crew, deputy chief for Ben Uden, and reduce medical calls.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I do have a question for Mr. Strike.
I didn't see him sit there.
With making this change, and as you've probably heard from rumor mill or otherwise, that obviously people are very concerned with an appearance of drop of service, change of service. Can you put out some sort of education for residents to explain the changes, that there will not be a lack of service? Because I think with a change like this, that there needs to be some education put out there to explain what's going on and that there is not a lack of service.
Sure. We're actually reducing what we are calling a service, a non-emergent service that's been in place for many years in order to save the service. In order to actually balance out the volunteer model so we can hold this model as long as possible.
Yep.
Because time has become the new money. We'll balance it out now that, or if you all do decide that this is an avenue you want to go down, I will then have permission to work with the staff to figure out what's best. And maybe it's gradual, you know, but having permission will allow me to help find the balance. So when the new chief comes, they're taking over a program that is balanced with a council who understands the service delivery model. They've got a report that's a year old, that's making recommendations, you're educated on it, you're brought up to speed, and you just made a vote or about to make a vote on this is the service we want to provide our community. And based off that, it's always monitored. There's no greater weight on a shoulder of a department head than of the fire chief. They're up at night wondering who's showing up, what's the storm gonna bring. You know, we've been talking about that for days. But because the responsibility is the community expects the service, even though most of them will never use it.
Yep.
But yes, we can market it, we can talk about it, we can Facebook it, we can have a video on it.
Yeah, even
Perfect.
put together something that you can provide to the city that they can
Absolutely, yep,
advertise it.
yep.
Mr. Mayor, and what I'd suggest too is before we get our newsletter out here, maybe we draft an article on that, kind of
Sure.
detailing some of those
Absolutely.
changes. So.
And we can pick a date to, you know, this won't happen tomorrow, right? But it gives the new chief and I an opportunity to talk about everything we just talked about and the council's wishes. And then we implement it over time for better service, or at least the equal service. It's not fair to have 20 show up on one, you know, at 5 o'clock and 2 show up, or 1 show up at 5 a.m. So try to find that balance. Your call volume is going to continue to go up. If I didn't say it, I know I said it at the previous meeting, but since 2020, we've had a 47% increase in medical calls since 2020. 47%. That's a lot.
I think, in my opinion, Jerry has explained it really well. I personally have talked with Jerry with different things here. And definitely, when I hear we have one firefighter show up with one vehicle on a fire, that's not good at all. I mean, that can go south, even when you do have multiple firefighters. One is the safety of the firefighter and the safety of the residents, big time, in my opinion, of that. So I think the duty crew thing, I was kind of against them at first, but then I didn't really understand them until Jerry and me have talked about it. And it makes sense, plus he can save us money by reducing the calls that we don't need to go on, but if they do change, we can be, sound it out right away and we can be there. So the residents need to know, and I want them to know, that we are gonna still provide the service for emergencies, heart, breathing, and stuff like that. We are not gonna ignore that, we'll be there. So this is just a way that we can make our department better, and safety for our firefighters and safety for our residents.
Mr. Mayor, could I just make a comment too? Saving money. We're actually not saving money. It costs $93,000 for the duty crew. However, the overall impact in the budget, because we'll be moving line allocations around, is $15,000. So we're not saving money. We're taking line allocations, moving them around to pay for this new delivery model. And keep in mind, we'll have a faster response time during the daytime. And it isn't uncommon to see duty crews save lives like right away, because we don't have that turnout time from home to the station, assemble, and then go to the call. They're out the door in 1 minute. So they're doing CPR in a matter of minutes. We're not waiting. In fact, I think I know our policy says you have to live within 10 minutes of the closest station. So that means you can live as far as 10 minutes away just to get to the station. And we're brain dead in 6 minutes. That's science. So
time is important.
So out the door right away. The chief can rest a little bit knowing they have people coming. They're at the station. They're going en route quickly. And much like everything else in life, it's a revolving, monitored system. And to the administrator's point, we change it when we need to. And that's why you have department heads, to bring you expertise and opinions and recommendations, and you get to make the choice on the best delivery you want to provide.
So I do have a question on the inspector to assistant fire chief. Is that going to be the same rate of pay that he's getting now, or is this a pay increase, and is this all budgeted already? That kind of information is needed.
Mr. Mayor and council members, on that sheet that was provided to us this evening, I believe it's this sheet right here. It shows that he's currently, I think he's currently making $38.92 an hour. Promotion would be to $40.48, and then he'd start on a step system at that point. So there would be, the challenge that we have right now is we have a fire inspector doing a lot more than a fire inspector should be. So he's not being paid for the work he's doing. So this would more accurately reflect what he's currently doing, and put him in that job classification that he should be in, as it is right now. The other part of this too is, I think that Jerry and I have spoken about this, and perhaps others as well. But by doing this, also you have a continuity plan. Say the new fire chief comes in and says, I'm moving to Florida. Sorry, folks. You have a continuity plan where you have a deputy chief now that he's kind of been in these roles. He's been brought into that inner circle of managing and controlling the department. He can now step more seamlessly into that fire chief position if it's the will of the council at that point.
So, and is this coming out of the fire department budget? Is this budgeted for already, or do we have to get some more money from somewhere else?
So this would be part of the fire department budget. These are dollars that are, as the interim chief, assistant, chief.
Bob the temp guy.
As he indicated, we're kind of moving pieces around the puzzle board to account for these increases that we're going to see, so that it's not an increase to the levy. So if you're saving on overtime, but this cost is going up, you're saving and you're kind of breaking even. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'm good.
Any other questions, Mayor?
I'd just like to make sure that down the road here, maybe 6 months or whatever, we get a progress update on how this is all going.
Right.
So we're all on board and keep going forward.
I agree.
And,
I'm hopeful you'll see the fire chief in front of you more than they've ever been.
the assistant chief deal was part of the survey recommendation too, so.
Yes.
All right,
And Mr. Mayor and Council, I think we're all proposing this because we feel it will be a better system than we currently have. And we intend to make sure that that's the case.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard? Motion passes. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's closed.
We have an HRA meeting.
Yep.
Yep.
That's Jim's.
Okay, I'll call
Thank
the-
you for coming, everybody.
Let me pull it up here real quick.
Thank you. I'll call the HRA meeting to order, April 28th, 2025.
Thanks, everybody.
Second.
Can I have someone?
Oh, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Minutes number 3, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Make motion to approve the minutes from January 27th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from January 27th, 2025. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Mr. Luck, number 4.
Mr. Chairman and members, I just wanted to bring up a preliminary budget proposal and financial update for 2026. We have to put in a budget in accordance with the procedure in the city here. The HRA levies an amount of $77,000 in 2025. And as far as the expenditures go, I can just get into this. The maximum amount that we can levy is $345,631. We levy $77,000. So again, we've had these conversations before of functions of HRA and limited resources. So you can levy up to that amount. I don't know that you would necessarily want to. But as far as 2025, 32,000 of that 77,000 gets transferred to staff for time spent, both in setting these meetings up, then also for the finance requirements to manage the finances on this. And essentially, we are left over right now with a balance as of March 31st, 2025 of $292,685. You'll see here the 32,000, the gap of 45,000 would go into that account. Essentially what we're looking for is a direction and approval of the HRA levy amount of 77,000 be included in the preparation of the 2026 city budget. This is the same amount as 2025.
Make a motion to approve HRA levy amount of $77,000 in preparation of the 26 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the $77,000 amount. Any discussion?
Go ahead.
I have a question. If we have a balance of 292,000 plus, why do we need to levy anything?
It keeps the HRA active and it builds up a fund for future projects.
I just don't think that's a good enough reason to levy anything. If we have a balance, I could see if we had a line item to spend that money on, but we don't, and we have a healthy balance, so why levy anything?
Well, when, I think it was when we did Taylor Street, that opened up that property by the church there, HRA funds were used, and it was able to be feasible to open up that and do that project because there was a substantial balance in that. So rather than putting out a levy that, well, we need to levy for $1 million, put this road in, those funds were available. And they were accrued over time rather than all at once that put a burden on the residents.
I'm not aware of that at all. I don't know anything about that.
So
Mr. Chair and members, that was before my time here, but
That's just an example.
yeah, I always use the, is it every man's treasure? Is that, I think it is, what if that were to become available? Would the city move in and buy that, raise that, and make that available for an Aldi? This is just crystal balling it, right? How would you do that? You need some sort of dollars to do that. And does $45,000 get you there? Maybe in 50 years it might, but that really doesn't give you a whole lot of flexibility to kind of take control of a property like that. Now you could say, well, then you're competing with the market. True. Essentially, the market could come in and put a used car lot there because it's zoned for that. That may not be what the city ultimately wants there. So the city may want to be in a position where they could take control of a parcel somewhere and make it available for something that they get from their feedback from the residents. This is what we want here. You hear a lot about grocery stores or whatever. Maybe it's a maybe it's a splash pad, or maybe there's all sorts of different projects cities can get into and spend money on, but you have to have that money to spend. And it's not that you're levying dollars for the sake of levying. I think it is good to have goals of what what you want to head down the road and try and accomplish. You set a goal out there and achieve that goal. I think this is just somewhat of a lifeline right now. Just keeping it going, adding a little bit of dollars every now and then. But if the city were to take a stronger position on housing and redevelopment, they would have to levy more dollars in order to do that.
Okay, and
Otherwise, you're going to bond for it, right? Take out debt, which is...
what is exactly what staff support activities is this 32,000 going to?
Well, so the time essentially breaks out the amount of time that staff is involved with the HRA. So it's putting together these packets, it's managing the finances, it's presenting here this evening, whatever time is involved. We take that and we put a monetary value to it, which is the 35,000, if that's correct, 32,000. And I want to be clear, this is not, well, you guys are already getting paid. Why are you getting 32,000? Because we're paid in the general fund budget, and that's reduced by 32,000 because you have HRA dollars coming in. If HRA dollars weren't there, your general fund budget would have to go up to offset that difference. So it's taking money from one pocket and putting it on the other. There's no additional monies involved here. But these services are something that can be billed to the HRA by law, and it's been standard practice in the past.
Does that answer your question, Suzanne?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any
Okay,
more?
this is just new to me, so I'm just learning this stuff, but the only question I have is, it says it's unaudited. Why wouldn't this be audited?
Because I would, since the audit, there's been additional cash or interest on that account, and so once that account is audited next year, then that would be it's
Okay, I
considered
just saw
audited
the
at that point.
I just saw the
Right.
unaudited, it didn't make much sense.
I think that's just the official way of saying that, you know, as more dollars go into this account, it needs to be audited again
Okay,
in the next sequence of audits, which all these accounts go through audits.
yeah, it just threw me for a loop.
Does that answer your question, Artie?
Yeah.
Any more discussion? We need a motion here to approve this.
Already made.
Okay. Motion's been made, first and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Motion passes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion's been made to adjourn, first and a second. Any discussion? Proceed to vote. All in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None heard.
We're adjourned.